Hello, I'm Carrie Bayette. I'm the Marketing and Promotions Manager for the Theater Department at Binghamton University. Thanks for watching another video on BingBackstage as we talk with some of our new faculty members that joined us in the fall of 2020. I'd like to introduce Kate Dial, our new lecturer in stage management. Kate is an equity stage manager with a background in stage managing for Broadway, for touring productions, and corporate events. She currently teaches stage management and is advising the team of student stage managers here at Binghamton University. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, thanks for having me, Carrie. It's nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Um, so tell me a little bit about your background and maybe how you arrived at stage management.
Sure. So I'm originally from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. I went to a little small state college in Jacksonville, Florida State College in Jacksonville. And I actually have a design technical background. I was doing a lot of scenic design, lighting design, and I love doing props. And I fell into stage management, as so many do, because there wasn't someone with sort of a management edge to kind of take over the running and management of the shows. And someone looked at me and said, "You seem like you're good at organizing people. Why don't you try stage management?" So I tried one show, fell in love with it. I was never really good at one thing. I was kind of good at a lot of things. And so stage management is a great opportunity to facilitate others' work, and you get to really touch all departments and help facilitate like an end goal for other people. So it was kind of a nice hybrid of what I already love to do. So after I graduated from there, I transferred to Brooklyn College to finish out my BFA there because, you know, as a stage manager, where do you go? New York. So transferred to New York, finished that, worked a bunch of downtown shows for a while, wasn't really getting the kind of work I wanted to be doing. So I ended up going to Columbia to get my master's. And before I graduated there, I got my equity card on a Broadway show called Wolf Hall. And then I started subbing, did some Broadway shows, did some off-Broadway shows. I met my husband on a Broadway show. And then somewhere along the line, we started planning having a family and things like that. So my priorities shifted a little bit. And so I started going more into corporate events. I got my own corporation that I work under, and I do corporate events all around the country. Now I'm doing them virtually from right here, calling shows, big corporate shows. And yeah, so that's kind of where my career has taken me and how I got into all different types of stage management.
That's great. For those who are not familiar, can you explain what it means to be an equity stage manager?
Sure. So an equity stage manager is just kind of a more professional highlight of a stage management title. Equity means that you work under a union, so there's a lot of protections that a union affords you, as well as a basic sort of minimum rate that we work under. But really, it just protects you from having to really negotiate things like pay, basics, salary increases, basic working protections, you know, anything that a union kind of helps protect workers from. It also really opens up the type of work you can take. So it opens up doors to higher quality work. Things like off-Broadway, Broadway, big touring shows, things like that are all covered under equity contracts. And we also are in the union with actors. So we become sort of a protective agent of the acting company that we work with as well.
Right. Yeah, because neither of you can do your jobs without the other, right?
Yes, we are closely tied in all ways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and communication plays such a huge role in what you do, right? I think you're a fantastic communicator. Now that you've, been in department meetings and production meetings, I think our students could really gain a lot of fantastic skills from taking some of your classes. What are some of your favorite tools or software that you use to do your job?
Like actual physical tools? Or
software, like how you keep yourself organized, how, when you're doing your stage management work, what types of technology do you use and teach in your classes?
Sure, yeah. So computers are a big thing for us, obviously. Stage management used to be much more pen and paper, but now everything's going very digital, very virtual, especially these days. The tools for us, stage managers are, for better or worse, very much tied to paperwork. We create tons of paperwork. So we use a lot of Word, Excel, those sort of things. students now are becoming much more used to working in Google Docs, sort of the Google Suite, G Suite sort of thing. So we're also using Google Docs, Google Sheets for live trackings for the shows like Macbeth and Pippin. We've actually been really using the Google Suite a lot because it kind of live updates and everyone can work on one document at the same time. It's a great sort of sharing system across multiple departments so that we can see what lighting's working on. We can see what sound's adding into a list. We can all kind of track on what we call a show flow to see within the show each cue and what each department is sort of shaping in that moment. And so those are the kind of the hard tools that we use. We've also been using a really cool software for our phone lately, or you can use computer too, but it's an app that you use on your phone for an intercom system. So it's a wireless intercom system that we can all talk to one another on comm, like you see sort of backstage headset sort of thing. So it's a digital comm system that we can all talk on different channels to one another. We can run the show behind the scenes, all the sort of cueing that takes place. We've been using this Unity intercom system, which has been amazing to us, really, really great. Besides that, like basic emailing, you know, we email 24 hours a day. Stage managers don't really ever turn off the job. Like we're constantly emailing and replying. And so those are kind of like the hard tools. Soft tools, like you said, communication definitely is one of those things. Facilitating multiple needs, creating trust within a room. I think those are more of our soft tools, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Creating trust in the room. That's a huge part because, I mean, you guys are running the show, right? I mean, so for maybe some who know a little bit about, or maybe are fans of theater but don't have a really broad understanding of what stage managers do, could you describe maybe in the rehearsal process what a stage manager does? I know you do a lot, but perhaps a summary of in the rehearsal process and in the production, what a stage manager does.
Sure. So in the rehearsal process, we are the person kind of making the room go forward. We are the person keeping to schedule, making sure actors are called when they need to be, making sure they arrive and they're ready to go, setting up the room for each scene that we're working. We're the people kind of setting the props and scenic items in the room to lay out. We're taping the stage to kind of give an idea of the shape of the set that we're working in. We lay tape down on the floor so that the director and the actors have a sense of the world that they're creating. We keep what's called blocking, so any kind of movements on stage that the actors are doing in time, we record that in a script so that it can be written down in a way that is repeatable. So that if an actor forgets they're supposed to say, like, move to a door at a certain line, we have that sort of record and we can help them remember that and sort of tie that to their lines. So we're keeping a record of that. We're helping actors be able to get off book and to be able to have the script in their mind without having to actually read the words. So we're helping facilitate that as well. We are looking forward to tech when all the technical elements come into the show. And so we're starting to prep for that in the first weeks before we get into the theater. So we're preparing documents for that. So the design team can work together to help facilitate the director's vision once we actually get to the stage. So those are kind of the rehearsal, like day-to-day things we're kind of tracking.
Okay, that's great. And then in production, when it comes for dress rehearsals and showtime, what is the stage manager doing?
So we have what I kind of branched into a little bit of a tech period, and that's really where the stage manager kind of takes the reins from the director, and they start kind of being the person who is driving the ship forward. From tech, the stage managers, they start learning the cues, both the verbal called cues for the lights, for the sound cues, all those things that you see actually happen on stage. And then backstage, you have a whole team of assistant stage managers who are actually running the show in their own separate way from the calling stage manager. So they are leading the team backstage, making sure that everything is set in the way it's supposed to be, making sure actors enter when they're supposed to be, making sure, most importantly, that everyone feels safe, secure, and is able to work in an efficient way backstage. So our main goal is to keep the show as consistent as possible, but obviously every show is different. You know, people call out sick. We have understudies come on, things like that shift the show, that change the show night after night. So, and no show is ever the same, even though that's kind of our ultimate goal, is to have every show the same. No show is ever the same. So we are keeping kind of ahead of things night after night as the show shifts. tracking any changes that happen, anticipating any emergencies, things like show stops where for whatever reason a technical aspect happens and we have to stop the show. I'm sure you guys have all been part of like a show stop and how exciting that is as an audience member. So I'm kind of moving forward from there. Yeah, just keeping, maintaining the creative team backstage, making sure that everyone feels safe. Just again, those sort of things to make sure that the show night after night is the most successful we can make it.
Yeah. Yeah. What, you know, so after hearing what the job is, right? You know, students are, you know, now have a little bit better understanding of the role in production. What would you say are some of the best type of backgrounds or skill sets that students may have and might be a real natural stage manager type?
Great, that's a great question. Stage managers come from all different backgrounds. There's not one type of stage manager. There are as many different types of stage managers as there are people. So your sort of natural abilities tend to lead you into the type of stage manager you are, whether you're more acting background or technical background, design, what have it. That can kind of shape into what kind of stage manager you are. But I'd say being someone who is organized and has an attention to detail, who loves helping others shape their work and loves developing things like from little tiny pieces into a big finished product, whatever that means to you, if you're that type of person, those people really do love stage management. Also people who like working with other people, who generally are kind of more people persons. I mean, that doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert. I'm certainly not an extrovert, but people that enjoy, in whatever sense, working and collaborating with others. I think collaboration is the name of the game in theater. And, you know, even if you don't have any formal training, some people go really naturally into a leadership role. So if you feel like you are a natural leader in whatever way that means to you, I think those people tend to fall into stage management very easily. And the nuts and bolts are easily taught, but that sort of intrinsic knowledge of yourself and being someone who can lead is harder to find. So if you're someone who has a natural leadership ability, then I implore you take a stage management class or, you know, do an ASM role and kind of see how you like it. It's fun to try out and jump in the shoes, and you don't really know until you do it. But people fall in love with it and do it, you know, for the living forever, even though it's a crazy hard job. People love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but
Yeah. Yeah. So following that a little bit, for this upcoming spring, I have two questions, and I'm sure you can tackle it all. Is what classes are you teaching in the spring that students might be interested in? And if they can't fit classes into their schedule, but are interested in maybe going down the stage management route and jumping into production, is that possible? Or is it recommended that they take some classes first before they jump into being on a production team?
Sure. So I have two classes. I have three total classes. One is more of a senior sort of seminar for stage management. But for kind of beginning classes, Tim Thistleton, who heads up the lighting department in our faculty, we are co-teaching this class. It's first time together, so we're very excited, called Backstage for Beginners. And it's on Monday, Wednesday, 3:40 to 5:50. And don't be put off if you're like not, you know, a beginner. Don't think of yourself as like a beginner in theater. It's more of an understanding of sort of what happens backstage. What are all the roles? How do we help facilitate each other's work? How do we create safety backstage? What is everyone really doing in the moment? So it's an understanding of all the different departments and the operations backstage, and kind of a you know, behind the scenes look at how shows are created. So I think that would be a great class for actors who are kind of curious and want to learn more about different roles. Maybe they don't know exactly what they want to do. It's a great way to kind of look at a bunch of different roles in one class and kind of see maybe where they want to bridge out into other concentrations within. So that's a great one. And we will obviously talk about stage management in there as well. So that's a great one to kind of get your feet wet if you're a little curious about any role backstage. I think that's great. And then the other class I'm teaching is called Live Event Planning and Management. And that will just be on Fridays, 2:20 to 4:30. I'm very excited about teaching this. I've actually taught events courses before, and they're my favorite class to teach. I absolutely love them. So it's basically anything that's not considered traditional theater. So we're looking at things like corporate events, galas, operas, dance, things that aren't sort of like traditional theater type of stage management, event management. I do a lot of corporate event work. It is a very lucrative career. It is actually one of the, for our professions, one of the ones that's booming right now. There's so much work to be had in the event industry right now. It's just crazy. So if you're interested in events, or if you're always kind of been like, I've always thought maybe I'd be a good wedding planner, it's a good class to kind of talk about what those alternative careers are, because you can kind of bridge into those from any field. You can be an actor who kind of becomes like an event manager, event planner. So you can, or a designer who maybe becomes a lighting designer for events. So there's kind of different avenues to take within it as well. So if you're curious about that sort of field, that's also a good class for you to take. If you're looking to ASM on shows, I am trying to shape it so that you do at least take an introductory course to stage management before you jump into that leadership role. Just because I do think you need to have at least a knowledge of the job before you're kind of thrust into it. Because it is like everyone kind of looks to you, it is a leadership role. So you do have to have some understanding, I think, before you get thrown in, or else it just feels like, you know, sink or swim, sorry. So I am trying to provide some knowledge before you go in. That doesn't mean that you absolutely can't be an ASM on a show. If you have a strong feeling like you want an ASM, please contact me and say, I'd love to get involved on a show, and we can find a spot for you within there as well. So not a deal breaker, but I am trying to give at least a little bit of like a safety net for stage managers going into shows ahead of time, so they feel like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And some students like actually got their feet wet in high school, or maybe they transferred. So there definitely are possibilities for students who do maybe have some hands-on background, but you know, still encouraging them to maybe check out some of the classes would be a great idea too.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thanks so much for talking to me today, Kate, and to whoever else is watching. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add, talking about your classes for next year, or anything about the field of stage management, theater, entertainment, or corporate wise?
Right now, it's a pretty cool emergent sort of world. Stage management is becoming much more virtually aimed right now. Obviously, we are doing all these virtual productions in our university right now, which is fun. So we're kind of building a new tool set. So it's kind of a fun, revolutionary time to reconceptualize sort of what these roles are and how we can help each other. So just because we're not able to work in a theater doesn't mean that we aren't creating work, and we're not creating sort of like artistic opportunities right now for everybody. So, you know, even though it's a little sad that we're not all backstage in the dark, we are really doing really cool work. So yeah, I suggest like watching Macbeth and Pippin and sort of seeing if you're not already involved in those, sort of what we're doing, because it is pretty neat what we're doing. Yeah, and then always feel free to email me if you have any questions or interest in stage management. I am around.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Kate. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, have a good day.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.